Item Number, SCP-4001. Object, Class, Safe. Nickname, Alexandria Eternal. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-4001 is secured within a reinforced concrete bunker disguised as a warehouse, constructed for its concealment in the city of Alexandria, Egypt. The block surrounding the warehouse has been purchased by the Foundation, and the buildings upon them are currently rented out to a number of business and private individuals to help maintain the facade. All civilians and non-cleared staff attempting to enter the warehouse are to be turned away. All civilians and non-cleared staff found within the warehouse are to be detained, interrogated, and administered Class C amnestics. The use of lethal force if intruders prove non-compliant is authorized. Multiple fail-safes are built into the bunker, including automated guns, gas weaponry, collapsible floors, cognitohazard-presenting screens, and a tombstone, a 300-ton load of impure iron laced with thermite charges set directly over the tunnel to SCP-4001. In the event of a large hostile assault against SCP-4001, all available teams are to be deployed to defend SCP-4001. Additionally, the deployment of SCPs, and SCP to defend or recapture the premises is authorized. Entry to SCP-4001 is restricted to Level 4 and above researchers with permission from the O5 Council. Open flames are strictly forbidden within SCP-4001, as are firearms or bladed weapons of any kind. Writing utensils of any kind may only be brought inside SCP-4001 with a majority vote by the O5 Council. Breach of these conditions could result in a CK-class restructuring scenario, or an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. Description: SCP-4001 consists of a tunnel, leading down to an antechamber, connecting to a staircase which descends 15 meters below ground. The staircase emerges from a tower into a large room stacked with bookshelves. The room does not conform to Euclidean geometry. It is possible to walk in any one direction and eventually return to the point of origin. The room is 312 meters in width, of indeterminate height, and many hundreds of kilometers in length. Under appropriate lighting conditions or with the use of vision aids, it is possible to see oneself in the distance by looking in the appropriate direction. The room is filled entirely by bookshelves. Each bookshelf is 2.8 meters in height and 100 meters in length, all neatly aligned with 2 meters of walkway space between shelves. An 8-meter wide main walkway originates from the staircase and runs in both directions the full length of SCP-4001, with identical modern-styled couches situated every 20 meters along the main walkway. Every fifth bookshelf has an electric lamp installed, which are the only light sources within SCP-4001. As such, most of the space within SCP-4001 is poorly illuminated. No power source has yet been identified for the lights. The floor is covered entirely in a sturdy carpet. Individuals standing within the room will hear steady ruffling noises, and on occasion loud thudding noises. The source of this sound is the origination of bookshelves and new books upon them, which occurs continuously without any obvious source of material. SCP-4001 represents the complete archive of every human life to date, and is continuously self-updating. Every human being that has ever lived has a single corresponding book within the archive, detailing all important events in their life. As humans are born, new books corresponding to them are added to the archive. Each book is identical in size and thickness, approximately the size of a standard paperback novel, though the number of pages varies depending upon the individual's lifespan and breadth of accomplishments. Each book is completely accurate in its contents, and thus SCP-4001 represents an unprecedented intelligence resource. Books are stored in order of individuals' births, and the spine and front cover of each book is inscribed with the name of those it refers to. Each book is written in a language which is unlike any existing language known to the Foundation, while simultaneously being completely comprehensible to any literate individual reading it. The total number of books is estimated at approximately 120 billion. Books can be taken from the shelves and read freely. Books can be scanned, copied and photographed without consequence. If returned to any of the shelves, the book will vanish and reappear in its original location within the archives. Any attempt to remove a book from the archives results in the book vanishing and returning to its shelf. The contents of the books represent the absolute truth and history of the individuals contained within. Altering the contents of the books has a corresponding retrocausal effect upon reality, with memories, locations, physical structures, physical states, and even complete existences changing accordingly to alterations applied to the books. Writing a decision, meeting, reward, change in personality, change in feeling towards individuals, change in health, method of death, or any other notable achievement or life event into a book will cause that event to transpire for the appropriate individual at the first possible opportunity. Discovery. SCP-4001 was first encountered by Foundation staff in 18 after it was uncovered during an archaeological dig under an old part of the city. The Foundation quickly isolated the location and administered amnestics to the archaeologists involved. The Foundation continued to operate the dig site for a few more months, occasionally pretending to find some pottery or bones, in order to avoid drawing suspicion. Initial forays into SCP-4001 were done cautiously, since the extent of the room was not fully understood. Once researchers realized the contents of the archive and the basic nature of the books, advance teams were sent with supplies to place flags at locations of interest, since the bookshelves are not marked nor distinguishable in any way. 17 days after beginning their expedition, the first advance team encountered a living individual within SCP-4001, designated SCP-4001-1, who had survived within SCP-4001 for nearly 2 millennia. See Addendum 4001-1. There are currently 7 camps within SCP-4001, each with its own generators, water filters, and beacons to aid in locating it, since it can take many days or even weeks to walk between camps. The oldest of books are estimated to correspond to human births dating back approximately 75,000 years. Such books, if entitled at all, are entitled with positions within society rather than proper names, such as Firebringer, Hunter, Chief, Mother, or Friend Killer. Regardless of age, all books appear to be in the same condition as the newest of books. Analysis of the earliest of books seems to support the human population bottleneck theory, with the vast majority of the earliest books representing individuals completely disconnected from those found in other books. As many as half of the books within the archive lack any names or titles, with many more books simply being titled The Baby, or The Infant, with the book detailing the short life of a baby who died before they could be named. Researcher note:
due to the exponential rate of human population growth, I am recommending we establish new camps every decade or so from this point on. Otherwise, the degree of reliability in terms of delving the archives in person is liable to be compromised. Also, I'm recommending we install and maintain a small electric monorail within SCP-4001 to facilitate ease of access, or come up with some other practical method of assistance. There has to be a better way than having to ride with food and water for weeks to find one person's records.
Dr. Lincoln Abrams, Archive Manager. Addendum 4001.3, Cataloging Assistance System. On a team of researchers and engineers led by Dr. Abrams completed the development of a simple AI and 2 corresponding robotic bodies, with the intention of compiling a complete record of the estimated 120 billion books within the archives, and making acquiring specific books from within the collection easier. Dubbed Marvin and Molly by Dr. Travers, they were originally set to the task of compiling a database by scanning every name on every book within the archives, a task they took a little over 12 years to complete. Currently, Molly is permanently stationed adjacent to the Camp A boundary, adding new names to the database as they appear. Marvin acts as an aide to staff, and if requested for a specific book, will locate and collect the book for staff, usually within a few hours depending on the distance needing to be traveled. Marvin has had wings installed on his body and his programming updated to enable flight at speeds of up to 250 km per hour within SCP-4001 by flying above the shelves. On staff discovered a book entitled Marvin and Molly. After reading the book, the decision was made to temporarily remove the robots used in the cataloging assistance system, whereupon the book disappeared 24 hours later. The robots were returned to SCP-4001 the next week, and the book reappeared in its original position, containing the line Marvin and Molly were returned to their true place of belonging, undoing the cruelty and callousness of their departure. The decision has been made to designate Marvin and Molly SCP-4001-2 collectively. Addendum 4001.4, Incident 4001-F. On Redacted, entered SCP-4001, and requested that Marvin collect a specific book for them. They had received appropriate clearance to enter the site, but not to perform any experimental procedures. 7 hours later, 43 other Foundation staff suffered from nosebleeds, and complained afterwards of severe headaches, prompting a response team to enter SCP-4001, whereupon was found standing alone in the shelves, disoriented, with a nosebleed and a book at their feet. They were escorted from the premises and detained for questioning. The book in question referred to one Dr. Junifer Peters, the contents detailing a number of successful missions within the Foundation and multiple promotions to the rank of, as well as a romance, falling out, and eventually a spiteful rivalry with. The first page of the book had been torn out. An immediate attempt to repair the book was made using materials on hand, a needle and spool of thread. The attempt was temporarily successful. An unidentified woman appeared spontaneously in Foundation headquarters, flickering in and out of visibility, and alternating between confusion and disorientation, and screaming in panic. She disappeared completely after hours, and has not reappeared since. After the event, Foundation records were searched. No documentation related to a Dr. Junifer Peters was found, nor could any Foundation staff recall ever meeting her. Researcher note.
Just as a reminder, following Incident SCP-4001-F, no non-archivist personnel, no matter how highly ranked, is permitted to be alone while in the archives. All it takes is one nutjob to tear out one early page and all of human history breaks.
Dr. Lincoln Abrams, Archive Manager. Addendum 4001.5. On clearance was granted by a vote of the 05 Council for an attempt to explore below the floor of SCP-4001. Carpet knives, axes and a jackhammer were brought inside SCP-4001 under careful supervision of the archivists, and a patch of carpet measuring 1 meter by 1 meter was cut from the floor near base camp. The carpet was raised without difficulty, revealing a concrete floor covered in a layer of ash. Under the advice of Archive Manager Lincoln Abrams, the ash was sampled, the carpet was replaced, and the exploration attempt was aborted. Subsequent carbon dating of the ash suggests it to be between 70,000 and 80,000 years old, and spectrometric analysis of the ash suggests it resulted from the burning of wood and paper. Further testing performed at randomly selected locations within SCP-4001 suggest that the ash is located beneath most, if not all, of the flooring of SCP-4001. No records within Foundation archives or SCP-4001 itself describe a major combustion event within SCP-4001. Researcher note.
I've spent more than half my life down here in these shelves, and will likely spend the rest of it here as well, as did my dozen or so predecessors. I've always been aware that within here lies both potentially the greatest tool for the Foundation's success and the greatest weapon for the destruction of humanity, as has everyone else who has stepped in these hollowed halls. Old libraries tend to develop personalities of a sort, inviting and cozy, majestic and regal, aged and dusty. You must know what I mean. This one, though, is unique. It has power, and it doesn't let you forget that. It permits us to fiddle with some of its rules, while harshly reminding us when we step out of line. Anyone who reads these magnificent volumes can't help but realize that the library has a personality of its own and passes its own judgments upon the actions of those whose lives are interred within. Waylon, after you went and did all those experiments where you pulled those books from their shelves and wrote all over them to mess with the lives of those beneath you, I went and had a look at your book. I saw what the library wrote about your actions. I saw how it expressed its disdain for your attempts to play God, to rewrite reality to our will. I saw its disgust for all your sins. Yes, Waylon, I now know every dirty little thing you've ever done. But more importantly, so does this place. It considers you arrogant, and it looks down upon you with far more disdain than I could ever muster. Yes, I've read my own book too, and Avon's, and the book of nearly everyone who has worked down here. On the whole, I consider the plentiful judgment levied upon myself and the rest of us fair. The library judges us not just actions, but intentions, and it knows immediately how much the rest of us care for it, and how much we've tried to ensure it isn't abused. Never forget that this place is permitting us to be here, and never forget to respect it, lest Alexandria could doom us all.
Dr. Lincoln Abrams, Archive Manager, Watcher of Alexandria Eternal. Thank you for joining us here at the Stasis. If you want to watch more paranormal, SCP, horror, and no-sleep videos, be sure to subscribe and like this video.